Hey there! Daiwa has just released 2 new bait finesse reels for the US market. And honestly, I've already tried them both. So I'm here to give you my opinion on whether these are worth your time, your money, and are they really all that interesting to begin with. In fact, this is one of them. Or is it? Let's get into the video. You know that I love some Daiwa reels and others I haven't liked so much. And I've also said recently that I think there are 3 Daiwa reels that are likely to come out this year in the bait finesse realm. Now, I didn't have any inside input. Those 3 were an update to the Steez Air TW, an update to the Alphas Air TW, and I really thought that a Tatula BFS made perfect sense for the US market. Launching a Tatula for Daiwa in the US is kind of like Shimano launching a Corrado. Like, they have very strong followings in the domestic market here in the United States, so it just made a lot of sense. So over the last few days, there's been a lot of discussion over 2 new reels that Daiwa has released. One of them is, no surprise really, the Tatula BFS, and it's called the Tatula BF70. The other one that was announced, it at first was like, oh my gosh, they came out with a new version of this. It's called the PX BF70. So it's basically a new Pixie, or is it, right? And that's sort of the rub with these 2 reels. If they just announce them and they're 24 models, how do I say that I've already had them and tried them? I had the Pixie essentially over 2 years ago, and I had the Tatula last year. First, let's talk about the Tatula. So the Tatula BF70, just to start with, it's got a list price of $240, right? So that may not be too bad if it stands up to some of the hype. But here's the thing, that Tatula BF70, it's just a rebranded Daiwa Salamandura. I picked up the Salamandura last year, and you know, they've been going for like 170-ish, but they are getting harder to find, it seems. And so part of me says, okay, well, is this why the Salamandura is getting harder to find for those of us in the US market? Because they knew the Tatula BF70 was coming out. It's the same reel with one exception. I mean, they changed the color, right? But here's the big exception. There's no clicking drag in the new Tatula BF70. You know, this, honestly, I think the Salamandura has a great clicking drag. It's really smooth. So it's a little bit of a disappointment that they went that route. Now, as for the new Pixie, right, the 24 PX BF70 is what they're calling it. It's got a list price of $349. $349. Like, this has got to be a freaking amazing reel, in my opinion, right? But imagine my disappointment when I started looking into this one as well. So it seems like everybody in the enthusiast groups, you know, on Facebook and some of the other places, they're all talking about the same thing with the new Pixie. It's essentially just an Alphas Air TW, right? And so, you know, again, if you've watched the channel, I think the Alphas Air TW is one of the worst JDM offerings out there. I just, overall, I don't think it compares to most of the other things out there. And I know I'm mostly in the minority on this one, but when you start looking at the specs in the new PX BF70, which is the same reel, they've just brought it out. And let me go back to the price real quick, right? So it's $350, but I can buy the Alphas Air, which is the exact same reel, for $238 right now on Digitaka. And I didn't look around a lot of other places, but nobody is selling the Alphas Air for more than $320. All of the regular places are, you know, that I would buy from on a regular basis, they're $250 or less. Now, also, it does look like there's a little bit less inventory on the Alphas Air than what there has been previously. There should be. It's a 4-year-old reel, which is why I thought they would be coming out with a new version, and quite frankly, they may be. But that begs the question, why then release this exact same reel with a different name in the United States for a premium price? Now, arguably, that $349 might be the same MSRP as the Alphas Air originally was. I don't know. It's been so long. In my brief amount of time trying to do research on it, I couldn't find the actual MSRP on the Alphas Air TW. I believe it was $350. So they've released a 4-year-old reel into the US market, and they're selling at the same price that it was released for 4 years ago, but you can get it overseas for $240 or so at this point. You know, it's got a little bit of an issue. And honestly, it doesn't have a drag clicker either. So they didn't make that change. I don't know how hard it would have been to just put a drag clicker in that. And then maybe I would have said, it might be worth looking at it. But when we look at the specs, let me scroll down here on Daiwa's website. Specifications. So essentially the Alphas Air TW, and I didn't think about this when I had it, but maybe it's part of what I felt in it. So it's a 6+1 ball bearing reel. Most of the reels that I have from AliExpress and JDM sites, and even a couple that some of the American prototype stuff that I've been working with, those are 7+1 or more. I mean, some of them are 11. You know, a lot of these are 12 ball bearing reels, and this is a 7 ball bearing reel. And so it's more expensive than the, actually, is it more expensive than the CQ BFS right now? Holy crap. The Alphas Air TW right now is listing for $25 more than the Calcutta Conquest BFS. That's just insane in my opinion. It's not even close. I don't get it. Now there's been some discussion like, well, this is just what Shimano did with the Corrado. And I disagree actually, because when I think it was Tackle Tour, when they did the first review of the Corrado, they said, well, this is a problem for the SLX BFS because the SLX had an MSRP of 270 when it first came out. The Corrado was launched at 200, right? And so not only did the Corrado have a new paint job, which it looks like maybe they darkened up the paint a little bit on the Alphas Air to become the Pixie, but not only did it have a new paint job, but it had more bearings as well. Like they actually made a couple tweaks and a couple upgrades to it. It's a 5 gram heavier reel too, and those probably the bearings versus the bushings. It's not the same thing at all. So what it is similar to, when Shimano last year released the Aldebaran in the US for $470, when you can pick it up for $320 overseas, maybe even less than that at this point. Let's look at that, Aldebaran BFS. So they released the Aldebaran BFS for $470 in the US last summer. I don't know how many they've sold because you can pick it up overseas from Digitaka and other places for under $260 right now. Right? So it's almost a 2-for-1. Like they've almost doubled the price. Daiwa didn't quite go that far, but let's go back and talk about the Tatula. Right? So this Salamandura was $170. They're talking $250 on the other. So it's an $80 premium. Now, of course, I was going to say this isn't a direct comparison because, you know, this didn't have a drag clicker, but neither does the Tatula BF70. So I picked up the Tatula 80 plus the Gomexa spool plus a drag clicker for like $160. Now we're talking $250 to $160. Now I've got 2 spools. I can drop the other spool right back into this one. And this also is available in a slow gear ratio. It's in multiple gear ratios where it looks like, at least on the left-hand model, there's only the high gear ratio for the Tatula BF70. So, you know, to me, this feels almost like, hey, we're going to take the same reel, we're going to launch it into the US market, and I don't blame them from a manufacturing and from a profit standpoint, right? Use a successful reel that's fairly popular in the US, but to charge that $350 just is mind-numbing to me because there's no engineering and development costs into it at this point. So it's just pure markup and costs. If it was okay for them to make a profit selling them for $250 to $280 over the last several years, then what's the need other than potentially corporate greed? Because I don't think our tariffs on Japanese products are all that high. So it's a little aggravating. It kind of feels like when Volkswagen stopped making the Beetle back in the late 70s or 80s, that car was still made for the next 25 years in Mexico, right? It's an icon down there, and the exact same little VW Bug that looked almost the same from the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s was made until 2003. But it was popular, and sure, the price went up, but quite frankly, I mean, I don't see the American market. The American market might be the largest marketplace for fishing gear in the world. So, you know, I think it feels a little short-sighted to just take an existing product, slap a new name on it, and say, hey, we'll sell it for more. Because those dumb Americans, they won't know the difference. Honestly, it feels a little bit like what Casking did with the Kestrel Elite and its variants. So when it launched, it was like $240, maybe even $270 or $280. I almost bought it on launch. But then they started playing all kinds of games with the prices. They made it so that you couldn't buy the Valiant Eagle 2 or the Kestrel, not the Elite, the regular Kestrel. You couldn't buy those in the United States off of places like AliExpress. you know, I saw it as price gouging. They're happy to sell those products to other parts of the world at a discount, but not to the United States. And so the Kestrel Elite stayed in the 200 plus range, while other people were buying it for 130 to 140. In fact, right now I see that they've changed some of their practices apparently, or it's just a small glitch and it'll go away, because I can buy all the different levels of that reel off of AliExpress for very good prices. No, I'm not going to. I mean, they recently reached out to me offering me an affiliate deal, and no way. I don't want to work with Casking. So it's got me, you know, I feel a little bit like, man, Daiwa, I think you missed the boat here. Right? You could have really done something nice. Now, maybe we will still get some new Daiwa bait finesse reels this year. Honestly, I mean, again, if you're watching this channel, you're in the know, you're really into bait finesse. I don't think either one of them, I keep going to pick them up because this is basically the same reel. I don't think either one of them are worth spending your money on them. If you really want the PX70, you know, you just want an Alphas Air, just buy it off of eBay. If you don't want to buy it from Japan, you'll probably still get it a lot cheaper than what you can pay for, you know, brand new. So a little disappointing. So it's like crazy to hear all the people talking about this. I could rant for probably another 20 minutes on this, but I'm not going to worry about these. You won't see them on my channel unless Daiwa or somebody says, here, we're going to send this to you so you can try it. You know, I would do it then. Daiwa was a great brand. I really question this decision. I don't understand it. They're obviously not looking at the enthusiast market. They're going after sales dollars. And companies do this sometimes, and it often is the wrong thing. You know, and so anyway, 2 new reels. They're not really new. It's no big deal. I wouldn't worry about them. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.